Swanston Street, the thriving heart of Melbourne, running northwest to southeast, joining the northern suburbs to the southern across the Princess Bridge. It has come a long way since the early blueprints where it was decided to be Melbourne's geographical and symbolic heart. Here are some facts about our glorious Swanston Street. It was named after Captain Charles Swanston. It is home to Town Hall, the State Library, St Paul's Cathedral, the City Baths, Young and Jackson, Flinders Street Station, Melbourne Central, Federation Square, and at its southern tip, the National Gallery of Victoria. In 1991, it was redeveloped into the Swanston Street Walk between Latrobe Street and Flinders Street. Now in the 21st century, the ever-changing public has become more health conscious and environmentally aware. With this combination, a new major road user has emerged: the cyclist. Their numbers have increased dramatically in the last decade, with Swanston Street Walk becoming the main arterial route through the city. With their increased usage in combination with trams, taxis, pedestrians and service vehicles, Swanston Street Walk has once again become plagued with problems.
So what exactly is wrong with Swanston Street? That is, what is our problem definition? Well, there are serious hazards affecting road users all down Swanston Street. In addition, the traffic flow is congested and is not a convenient road to use, particularly for a cyclist. So we conducted a road safety audit of Swanston where we identified firsthand these issues. So parked vehicles along Swanston Street present quite the hazard. On what is already a narrow stretch of road, a parked vehicle can act as a serious obstacle. So here we see several parked cars, all of which slows down the traffic behind and also leads to a potentially dangerous situation for cyclists. Here we see a bus, which can be a huge obstacle. This long row of taxis could also cause a problem. And look, a horse! Issues with signage were also a prominent problem along Swanston Street. Here we see an example of a confusing sign. In this picture we see a number of issues. There's a sticker covering a sign, there's a pole covering other signs, and there's part of a tree covering another sign as well. Traffic users could therefore be missing vital information. On the corner of Swanston and Latrobe, road users encounter this traffic light, which could prove very confusing. There are also many other examples of confusing signs. One major factor noticed during the road safety audit is the lack of a bike lane for a good duration of Swanston Street. This is seen in the following picture. This often forces cyclists to do fun things like ride between parked vehicles and trams, seen here, and other fun situations such as riding between two taxis. The high number of pedestrians using the street also presents serious hazards, both to themselves and to other users. This shot gives a good indication of the number of pedestrians that road users encounter. Further problems are presented when pedestrians disobey the law and jaywalk. Here we see some silly kids. Tram stops are also an area where significant caution needs to be taken for pedestrians. Focusing on the pedestrian footpath, here we see a large number of motorcycles parked on the path, taking up valuable pedestrian space. Here we see a whole heap of boxes doing the same. And here we see a big issue seller seated in the middle of a crowd of people disrupting traffic flow. Having identified these problems, our goal is therefore to improve traffic flow, reduce the hazards faced by road users, and make the road more convenient for cyclists. More specifically, our objectives are to provide efficient road space allocation, enhanced comfort and safety by separating or buffering cyclists from motor vehicles and public transport, separating or buffering pedestrians from cyclists, and increasing availability of bike facilities. We decided to collect some data on traffic flow, and we did this by conducting a traffic survey. During our traffic survey, we obtained very useful data relating to the time it takes to ride a bicycle along Swanston Street and the speed of travel along Swanston Street for cyclists. We found that many cyclists were exceeding the speed limit, which we did as well, accidentally of course. We also found that during the course of travel there were many stops due to traffic lights and other obstacles. The total travel time for us was 8 minutes and 36 seconds. By investigating from CrashStats, an online public software provided by Vic Roads, we could have some rough answers for the questions of how, when, and where accidents happen along Swanston Street. Most of these accidents results in injuries rather than fatal cases. Vehicle and pedestrian collisions are the predominant accident types. Stats also indicate that bicycles and cars are the two main causes of the accidents. An average number of 40 accidents happen annually along this section of Swanston Street in the last 5 years, and about 10% of the case surprisingly occurred from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. every day.
Criteria. From the audit that was undertaken, there were some key areas that needed to be addressed. There were problems associated with parked cars, the footpath, bicycle lanes, the cyclist road surface, signage and road users' behaviour. The following criterion was created to address these problems. For a possible design solution to be successful, it must address this criterion.
With all the troubles associated with Swanston Street that have been listed in our audit, the Melbourne City Council has proposed 6 alternatives for the redevelopment of Swanston Street Walk and an extension to Franklin Street. They all vary in costs and location of redevelopment. Proposed designs 1, 2, 3 and 6 recommend redeveloping the whole section between Flinders Street and Franklin Street, while the other 2 proposals, being proposals 4 and 5, suggest different redevelopments between different sections along Swanston Street. Of these proposals, some extend the footpath and others reduce it, while some allow motorised vehicle traffic while others don't. We came up with a solution where the footpath was extended slightly and no motorised vehicle traffic was allowed on Swanston Street. A colleague had a proposal where it was one-way traffic for motorised vehicles on one side and the adjacent road was redeveloped into a bicycle highway where cyclists travel beside each other. The focus of all these design options vary, from motor vehicles and bicycles to tram passengers and pedestrians, with each having their own unique pros and cons, but ultimately the decision of which model to implement should depend on which model best solves the problem definition in the system's approach.
Sensitivity analysis. Sensitivity analysis is trying to identify what sources of uncertainty are apparent in a proposed solution in trying to answer the problem. For this situation with Swanston Street, all that one can do is to attempt to meet the suggested criteria with their design option. In saying this, it means that the criteria must be appropriate to the required solution for the public's current and future needs. This may mean surveying the general public and users of Swanston Street to try and find their needs. This also means using forecasting to predict future users' numbers and to ensure that the chosen design option will meet future needs of the public.
The flow of cyclists is expected to increase in the year 2012. Prediction of this flow can be evaluated using the transport demand model, which divides analysis into 4 stages. Stage 1, generation. Growth in both inner-city housing and apartments are expected to increase. Stage 2, trip distribution. The central city is the location of many key destinations and events that attract a large number of people. 50% of people that come to the central city are either workers or students. Stage 3, mode split. There are various travel modes for people travelling to and from the city. These include walk, bike, car, public transport and motorbike. Stage 4, trip assignment. Other possible alternative routes are Batman Avenue and Kingsway. Using these data, the model can now estimate the flow of cyclists.
Because a redevelopment of Swanston Street would be a major project that would influence the city culture, many resources would be required throughout the works. The key resources required would be funding, labour, materials, and plant and equipment. Without any of these, redevelopment would be impossible. Key constraints that would affect the redesign and redevelopment of Swanston Street would be physical restraints and restrictions of parameters of design, such as possible road and lane dimensions, restrictions on the budget, the availability of resources, and time restrictions, such as not being able to do works during peak hour usage of Swanston Street and finishing works by deadlines.
Evaluation is deciding on what design options will best meet the criteria produced and keep Swanston Street as Melbourne's iconic heart. From the design options that meet the criteria, these options would go to Melbourne City Council to find the best solution for the city. This would be the design option that meets the constraints and resources discussed previously. Implementation will be done as soon as possible after being through the council. This is due to the public being in high demand for the redevelopment, as Swanston Street needs are changing and need to be updated. Once completed, the project will be reviewed by the council and all forms of media. We can only hope that the project was a success.